Janay Party.
I think since I kind of chose fighting instead of study, then I kind of like always from the get-go knew in the back of my mind that I had to keep the idea of constantly sort of evolving and adding to my resume. When I did the Bose thing, that put my foot in the door for a lot more production kind of work and maybe even do a movie. All my skills are finally kind of coming together, and my game is like, I know I'm like absolutely on the cusp, if not there.
We have several like different types of guests on, and it's always like these self-made people from all different industries, and I'm trying to have more fighters on. And you're a great example of someone, I think, who is just very brand aware, and that's why like you specifically I wanted you on. So how has it been?
Yeah, good. Thank you. And thanks for your kind words. It's been good. I just obviously recently fought, and got to spend a lot of time over in the US, and that was great. And now, yeah, 2 weeks of hotel quarantine. Not so exciting, but at least, yeah.
How's it
Could
been
be
so far this quarantine? It's only day 2, like day 3.
day two already.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's been not too bad. I've been kind of just trying to ease into it in a sense, like not being in any rush to do anything, I think, especially like after 2 weeks of, I wasn't necessarily like running around, but I mean, it was a very like busy sort of holiday, making sure I was like trying to visit all the gyms that I wanted to see and
Mhm.
see everyone, catch up with everyone. So it's kind of nice to like really slow down. And
Yeah.
I've got some friends like dropping some of my stuff over so I can be a little bit more productive over the next few days once my laptop and stuff's here. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you could work on your social media and all that. I just saw like I
Yeah.
just finished watching. I saw you had the vlog, and I thought it was pretty dope. Yeah.
Oh, hey, yeah, it's funny that that was literally only like 2 days out of like 2 weeks straight of just doing a lot of stuff. So yeah, it would have been,
Been jumping around.
yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, this is Janay Harding. She is a Bellator fighter, and you are one of the region of the New Zealand, Australia. That's really up and coming in terms of in terms of MMA. I think that is why like there's so much more growth to be had for you, and I think you are just an exemplary attitude. Like you have an exemplary attitude on social media. I think the also authenticity that you show, win or lose, is what really allows people to stick around, and you're really good at showcasing your personality, and I think that's why, because I knew of you and I knew what you had in store, but I only started paying attention around your last fight, and then once your reaction to a loss really was like, okay, I need to get her on, and like So what's your attitude towards like well let's start at your beginnings in MMA. Like how did you get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I started combat sports in karate first, and like most kids do, and just like trying out different hobbies and things. And then, yeah, I ended up progressing to MMA just once I kind of, I guess, almost got like a little bit bored of karate. So yeah, I moved over to MMA and sort of didn't start fighting until a couple years later when I finished high school, and I had a little bit more extra time and I could train full time and really put a lot more effort into jiu-jitsu specifically. And then yeah, like I had my first fight, did really well, and just kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna sort of put all my focus and energy into this, and I've sort of been doing it ever since, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. And when did you think when did you decide like that this is a career, there's money in this, and I want to pursue this? um
It was sort of like, I think maybe like 2 or 3 fights in, we had like a guest coach at the gym, and he was sort of just like, do you want to do this as a hobby or a career? And I'd never really taken this second to like step back and really consider that,
Hmm.
especially since there wasn't really a lot of money in it. But I sort of knew that this was something that gave me a lot of passion, and I was happy to put my energy into it, and I probably couldn't live without it in a
Hmm.
sense. So as well try and make a career out of it and like create revenue. And luckily for me, it sort of worked out and grew as I grew with the sport. And now women especially can make good money in it, and we can all kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I always see this. It's a great example of just it's the only sport I think where there's that equality between men and women. And I was speaking about that with Laura Murphy recently, and she's just like, yeah, it gives her a lot of pride to say that she competes in a sport where she makes as much as the men, and you know there's no differences. Now there's a lot of talk about fighter pay, but that's a different story. At least the equality between the genders is there, and I don't want to turn it into that. So. But so you seem to be very just brand aware in the sense that um, I there's a lot of fighters ask themselves, right, and a lot of athletes in general. I think I always ask themselves like, why do certain people have a large following and others don't? A lot of fighters, sell tickets and some don't, even though their records aren't crazy good. Um, and I think you just understood that, you know, you just need to become a brand, right? You need to um, have your own, your personality needs to be showcased at all times. Do you think that fighters need to just keep pushing and highlighting their interests outside of MMA and making that part of their whole brand on social media and just playing off that in terms of
yeah,
growing an
it's
audience?
like that I have like a little bit. It's sort of like when you look at combat sports or mixed martial arts, it's a different type of product that we're kind of trying to sell. We're not
Hmm.
selling like a whole team, which generally like a lot of the following for a team, like say football or whatever it may be, basketball, all sorts of things. People follow their team based on their region and like their geographical position. So like for us, we need to capture individuals from everywhere because we are an individual and then therefore an individual brand, which is and it's like in a sport where you really only tune in if you can kind of relate to the person or you know them. Not always, like a lot of the time people will just tune in because they remember that like they like fighting for one, and then sometimes just because they remember the person's last performance. But like most of the time you really like a lot of those people with the bigger personalities have more viewers because those viewers can like relate to them
Hmm.
personally. Therefore, they feel like they know them, and I feel like social media and like this current age and stuff, you really have to be brand aware and like work on that other aspect so that people can like put a little bit more effort in to make sure that they don't miss your fights. And because at the end of the day, that's the product that we need to sell, and therefore like it obviously ups your worth financially and just like as a brand in general, and then or you can obviously create more revenue out of it. So it's like it's the weirdest sport where like sometimes not the best fighters are actually like the more popular
Yeah.
in a sense. Yeah, which is
Yeah.
weird, but like it's something that you can definitely capitalize on. And
But something you got,
hopefully,
yeah. Sorry, yeah, continue.
no, you're right.
Yeah, so for example, like you see the surge of Jorge Masvidal, for example, like he had a different route and only came into his prime, later on, or at least prime in the sense of like fan base. And then you have Nate Diaz, who's like win and loss. I think I don't know if he has a lot of losses on his record. Still, people are just gonna keep tuning in. And I think though you are about to, like, you're really trying, you're like figuring it out now. I think you're putting things together in terms of your fighting as well, and it's cool to have people on that journey because you're not even in your prime yet. And how do you want to like showcase sort of the journey, including because I think it's even better for your story, the fact that you showcase like the wins and the losses so that you see the whole thing and the struggle and then getting on top.
I think it just like it gives you more experience too. Like I think once, not saying that I enjoy experiencing my losses, but once you have experienced it, you obviously learn a lot more. And therefore, you can kind of take all those lessons and the things that you learn in your next performance. And of course, like I think a lot of people say they learn a lot more from their losses than they do their wins. So, I'm not saying that it's something that you should do regularly, but like you're saying, I mean, I'm the youngest in the top 10, so I'm not necessarily like in any major rush to sort of fast track everything and everything be perfect. I
Hmm.
just kind of want to be the best athlete and the best champion that I can be in as many promotions as possible. So if that destination doesn't change, I think early days, like losses used to obviously deter me so much, and I wanted to quit, etc., etc. But like I think now, after the last few losses and knowing that they were very like fine line kind of losses, and it's not like I don't deserve to be there. It's not like I'm not improving. It's not like I don't go in there clear headed, etc., etc. And I'm trying to like constantly evolve. Then I'm not taking the losses as personally. I'm not
Yeah.
like wasting extra energy on them. Because at the end of the day, I kind of know that the destination hasn't really changed. Which
Right.
kind of sounds like it's just like either way, I'm gonna experience highs and lows like for the rest of my life. You're never gonna like walk through life not going to experience another low. But knowing that it's coming and kind of like being able to just learn off it and then navigate it that way, I think can help a lot kind of in like moving forward and not letting it affect just general day-to-day life. Like you don't want it to kind of put you into a bad spot and then it just like kind of fester from there.
And I thought you just you performed incredibly well, like because it was Liam McCourt, a great grappler, you know. I thought, well, this would be like I think I messaged you. I think I said like this is gonna be a sneaky highlight on the card. Like I was excited for that, and you really dealt with. I was impressed with how you dealt with the grappling, and I think it was your fight. And you know, I don't want to talk about the ending necessarily, but so there's like all these positives to take away. So like this one little lapse of judgment, um, like that's the only thing. If it wasn't for that, like I think you would have taken it. And I think you were smart by when I saw Mallory Martin in the corner, I thought, okay, you understand what you're doing. You know, you got this top wrestler in there. I know you're friends. And so, yeah, nothing to hang your head on about. Is that yeah, that's the saying. But
Yeah.
so as a fighter, as an individual athlete, right, in an individual sport, um, it's um, it's not like you're on a salary either, and it's not like the fight checks are gonna come forever. And a lot of fighters just end up in this situation. A lot of these athletes end up in a situation when it's like too late because it's a very young sport. You can't go on forever. Where they just haven't thought about their future, and then they realize near the end, like, oh shit, I don't have an idea what I'm gonna do afterwards. So, how do you navigate that from now, from such a young age, and what are you doing towards securing a future for yourself after fighting?
I think since I kind of chose fighting instead of study, then I kind of like always from the get go knew in the back of my mind that I had to keep the idea of constantly sort of evolving and adding to my resume at the same time as fighting. I couldn't just like sort of put all my eggs in one basket. Not that I didn't believe in myself, but of course, in a sport like this, you can get injured or
Yeah.
um, it happened COVID, like all sorts of things. So therefore, I was always just sort of conscious of just adding, I guess, skills to my resume at the same time as evolving as an athlete and trying to progress through my career.
Mm.
And therefore, I think I've just sort of like added little things on, like when I did the Bose thing, that put my foot in the door for a lot more production kind of work and
Mm.
maybe even doing movies and obviously just more general screen things, just because that's not a big amount of, I guess, time that you have to devote to it for a good reward. So therefore, it can kind of complement my current career and training full time and everything like that. So I can kind of keep being a fighter while still doing these little things in between, which is something, yeah, that especially in the last year has been really beneficial to be able to sort of add it on and get my foot in the door now, so that maybe, yeah, if I have to retire early for whatever reason, touch wood, that doesn't happen, but I kind of have this other pathway that I can venture off into.
But even not if you retire early, it's just like in general, I
Yeah.
think you just need to think about that. How did the boasting happen? Like, how did you? Because you're saying it like it just happened, but I'm pretty sure some at least some sort of planning went into it. Like I know a lot of things just come to you. A lot of things just happen sometimes. But
Yeah.
you put yourself in that position though, like whether it's planned or sort of planned. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It was like, yeah, one of those things that did kind of curveball out of nowhere, but at the same time, I sort of just saw, I think it was advertised or it was going around that there was a position available for a headphone company. I didn't know who it was, and you just had to self tape, send it in, and you would get possibly shortlisted or casted, and that's what happened. I just sent in a self tape, kind of not really thinking that much of it, to be honest, just sort of doing it just to, I guess,
Mm.
make sure I didn't regret not doing it, and it's better than obviously ignoring it. And then yeah, I got shortlisted um, to like I think the last four people, and then they pushed for me, and I got the spot, which was really cool. And then after the first, I was really only hired for two campaigns, and after finishing those two, they looked into who I was and wanted to do the last one,
Mm.
which was obviously more about me, like a little short film, kind of about me and my relation to the product and I guess music in general, which was really cool because then it sort of strengthen my relationship with them, and I got to get a good amount of experience doing that kind of thing properly, like having call times and scenes and getting used to like hair and makeup a little bit more and all
Oh,
those. I've dabbled but not really done to that extent, which is really cool.
yeah. See, like you gather just different kinds of life experience or like work experience in all these different fields. Like you have to look at it that way because there's a lot of people that might think, okay, I'm just gonna get in there and do the scene and leave, or and whatever like whatever side thing they're doing, but you're actually trying to analyze and learn those things. It's like I relate it to like so I have a production company, so we do video productions and such. And by the way, if you're ever in Amsterdam, like free of charge, you can just you have a camera crew. So but so I started as like with no experience. Like I had as a hobby, and I did it in university and all that. But at some point, someone said like, "Yeah, we need a producer. Do you know how to do it?" I'm like, I guess I can figure it out, right? Um, and from there, it's like setting up production and being organized. To hiring crew, hiring the sound person and stuff. What I loved about being a producer is eventually through many productions, you just have enough time. Like most of the work goes in beforehand and afterwards. So during, just really learning from those brilliant people around, like the cameraman and the sound man and the director, and see how they do things. And um, it's like picking up things here and there. And I recently like had like two full on productions by myself, where I also did the videography and the editing, for example. So it's those are skills that, but only now I'm realizing, okay, I got them. And but before I was maybe less comfortable with it, admitting it, because I hadn't had the education for it. You know what I mean? And what a lot of fighters for me have, and I think who said it? Someone said it on a podcast recently. I just thought that was brilliant. Um, they a lot of them say, "Oh, but I don't have a degree, or I don't have the business acumen to start a brand or to manage athletes or whatever." But no, you do though, because it's just your career and what you've gone through on that business, and that's something that maybe the smallest amount of people in the world have. And what you've learned on that journey is just very valuable. You will have a PhD, actually. You have in field experience with it. How do you see that?
Yeah, definitely, especially like with not only like the generation that's coming through now, but I guess the pandemic really showed that you don't always need education or tickets or PhDs to yeah become successful, become an entrepreneur of any variety. And I
Yeah.
think it just opened up new avenues, especially now that we connect a little bit more into over technology. You can really kind of use that to your advantage and sort of work off it and find your little niche that you like. If as long as you're passionate about it, generally you can
Mm.
make money, and therefore, I think like a lot of people are realizing that everything that you do, you should really take like if you become, I guess, like if you've done this for so long, if you've been in this game and you've networked and you've met a lot of people, maybe benefit off that network and become a manager, or like there's all different
Hmm.
avenues that you can do that don't necessarily always mean you have to go to university for 2-3 years. Your university may be a little bit different, and I guess for us, like ours is going to the gym, so for other people
Yeah.
recognizing more they can do different things.
About so you got several sponsors in, right? As well, like on top of all of that, like, did that just come, or did you think like the way you're handling your social media played a role too?
I think it was like a combination. Sponsors have always been something that I've kind of struggled to get board financially. Like I know a lot of people sort of always had like maybe friends or connections through
Hmm.
their gym or whatever that would jump on board. But for me, yeah, I really had to kind of like branch out a little bit more, especially because I kept moving like my living location. So therefore it was hard to sort of relate to local businesses when you're constantly moving around.
Mm.
But yeah, it was just something that I think progressed my ability to network. I think maybe in my ability to conversate my own, I guess, business like ventures and stuff, like being able to email myself and being able to present information kind of all by myself professionally.
Hmm.
Definitely aided to like keeping a lot of sponsors on board and growing with them. And then obviously social media just complements your ability to promote their product, which is always going to engage a little bit more brands and stuff, and want them to get on board with whatever you're doing. So yeah, I think it was like a combination of everything,
Hmm.
and being conscious of it all as well.
Right, and just building that network. You said, well, you seem to be a master at networking. I mean, I see you just all over every gym, with all these different fighters, and just making sure you're out there and you're being seen. And but then again, like for in your case, it seems like it's coming from an authentic place. You're actually friends with these people. It's all genuine. But like, what's your advice? Like, your networking advice in this industry?
Yeah, I guess I just like naturally I'm a fairly energetic and like I guess bubbly person.
Yeah.
So that really complemented everything that I've done in the past. I've always like made friends with like the right kind of people, or I guess attracted good people on my journey, which has been really positive. And then I guess that last trip sort of just showed it all in a sense. Like it wasn't, like you're saying, it was all organic, and there was gyms that I didn't even have time to go visit that I was getting invited to, and people that I didn't even have time to see, and I didn't really realize until I was over there, and I literally winged the whole, like nothing was really planned. I think there was like only baselines of things planned
Yeah.
for that week, and then I extended it for an extra week anyway. So literally day to day, I was making it up as I went, and at the same time, I still managed to visit everyone and get invited, I guess, to the right places slash to places that were going to benefit me, and
Hmm.
that I like really wanted to experience. So I think it was like I hate to be like cliche in a sense, but I always say like I think it was one of those things that I sort of manifested. Constantly being kind to people as well, and being good energy really paid dividends when a lot of people reached out to train with me or like meet up or whatever it may have been. And then that kind of like makes me excited for the next time that I go over and I can kind of do more and network more and strengthen these relationships, which was really cool.
I mean, yeah, but I'm big on this manifestation thing, and at first I thought maybe it's bullshit, because a lot of
Yeah.
people put too much of a spiritual thing behind it, and I don't think that's the case for you either. But that's fine, that's fine. But for me, it's like more, and I mostly during this pandemic, well, at least for us, it's kind of over. Um, Found out, just it's more the belief and the having that goal in your mind all the time leads you to subconsciously do all the things necessary and take those steps to get there, because it's in your mind all the time. You start thinking, relating, like, if I do this thing, does that help me get to that goal? And now I'm finding a common theme between all my guests, and everyone actually has some form of manifestation, whether they call it manifestation or not, you know I think that's dope. And
Yeah, it's cool to see.
yeah.
Like when you like come to fruition, it's like, okay, cool. Like that means that I'm kind of making the right steps in the right direction.
What goals do you, well, other goals aside from your fighting goals first, do you have?
Well, I guess now that I am back in Australia, it's time to like kind of get back to all the things that I was working on, I guess, before I left as well, and things that I put to the side during camp because obviously camp always sort of is the first priority, and whatever fight is coming up is as well. And then I got a couple of weeks to rest in a sense. I like trained pretty much twice every day. Um, but now like I guess have fun, rest in quarantine, just start organizing everything again. I've got a few projects that should be coming out soon. I'm working on new merch,
Mm.
obviously trying to build the brand and like do a few more opportunities and like collaborations with certain people. So all of that sort of like now coming back to the forefront. And yeah, I'm just waiting to get my laptop back and start pushing everything through and getting everything organized. So then slowly throughout the next probably like 2-3 months, there'll be a lot of things happening, and I definitely won't be I'm in a rush to get back in to the cage, but I'm happy if it is going to be a wait because I know obviously with this pandemic time, we've definitely eased up on activity. So it's sort of nice to
Yeah.
know that I've got a few other side projects and I can kind of keep myself focused on those as well.
You feel like you need to finish in your next fight?
Yes, yeah. Well, not even need. I want that for myself because I
Mm.
know how much I've improved mentally and physically. Like all my skills are finally kind of coming together, and my game is very evident. And I'm obviously quite dominant in the areas that I need to be. And then just a few tiny little tweaks. Like I know I'm like absolutely on the cusp, if not there. It was just yeah, split second
Hmm.
decision on that last one. So it was sort of I just know in myself I would like to get the reward for all of this improvement and growth that I've made for sure.
Hmm. Hmm. No, I think you're a vicious striker, so that won't be an issue. I think so. Let's hope. Let's hope on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't. But you seem very busy now. You seem very excited. So it's not like because I was wondering if you had that like this rut, like after traveling always for such a long time. Like, well, I mean, now maybe you're sitting in that hotel room for 2 weeks and you've got it a little bit. But um,
Yeah.
are you more excited to be back now, or is it still a bit? I'm coming down from this trip. I wish I was still there.
Yeah. I mean it's kind of like I think it was a good time to leave. I think extending it was a good idea as well. I don't think I was ready to come back to 2 weeks of hotel quarantine. After that first week, I still felt like there was a lot of things unfinished, and obviously, as like positive and as much as I'm trying to spend my energy on positive things,
Hmm.
I was crushed by the fact that I lost. Of course, like every athlete, and of course, social media is a highlight reel, not necessarily the entire reel. So it's sort of just like wanted to keep being productive and feel like I got something out of the trip instead of just going over losing and then spending a week kind of like dabbling in a whole lot of things. I really want to
Yeah.
solidify a lot of stuff. And then I knew that, yeah, when I was on the way back, I'm ready to come back now. I'm ready to come settle and work through obviously just criticism. I've watched the fight like millions of times, but I'll actually sit down and watch it properly now. And I guess making a plan and setting out a plan is one of those things that helps me mentally kind of stay on top of it and be prepared for the next one. That sort of is like my, I guess, version of moving through the loss and dealing with it is just like setting my sights on the next thing, the things that I need to improve, criticizing myself, taking
Yeah.
responsibility for what I need to, and then yeah, and then moving forward. So it's sort of like will be kind of like as much as I would much rather not be stuck in a hotel room for 2 weeks, I would like to be at least at my own house.
Hmm.
But if I'm gonna get stuck, I might as well use it and set my intentions, and I'm gonna do that for sure.
No smoking in the hotel
Yeah,
room. Yeah.
window, no sunlight, and the sun's
Is
going down at like 5:30 at the moment. I don't
Oh,
understand.
okay, really? That's
Yeah,
crazy
but
though. Okay, other side of the world, I guess. For us, it's really late. Like I think 9:30 p.m. or something. The sun really goes down. Yeah,
like everyone else like that came back from overseas, you just never know how everyone's going to deal with quarantine. And by the consensus of the boss, it seemed like a few people were going to struggle mentally. And
yeah,
obviously, mental health is big importance and should be a priority in something like in a situation like this. And then you add on the fact that there's no sunlight.
Oof.
after like 5. That's brutal for a few people if you're not mentally strong. It's
It
gonna
is,
be hard.
especially in Australia. I mean, the weather is
Mm.
fantastic. Is it now? Wait, how are
Kind
the
of,
seasons?
man.
Hold on.
Yeah, so we're in winter.
You're in
Well,
winter, yeah. Oh, we have great weather. You're not trying to rub it in or anything, but
yeah,
this is yeah. But it was especially the first quarantine for us. The first lockdown was terrible because it came around summer, and people were like, "What? Now we have to be inside?" And something about like the Dutch and So I come from a warm country. I'm half Jordanian. I grew up in Jordan. So to me, it's essential, and that really you see it affecting people's mental health. I have a lot of friends, unfortunately, now struggling with it more, but it's making us all more open about it. So I actually like that you brought it up. Let's get into it a little bit. Like, what's like how you're open with mental health. You're open to talk about it, right?
hmm for sure.
Did you have any like low points and in terms of your mental health, and how did you overcome them, especially as a fighter, because there's so much just mental pressure on you, um and also with the stress of you being one of the busier kinds of fighters, the ones that are really working on a business, actually essentially on the side.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's been like heaps of up and downs. I think a lot of the time it's not just been the fight game that's affected me. It's maybe been like a combination of the fight game and personal life, or there's been times where I've been living on the other side of the world and obviously felt quite isolated. So had to like navigate mental battles kind of through that aspect and stuff, which was really hard. But I think at the end of the day, just like popping out of it, I mean, even like the last 8 months or 8 or 9 months have been probably my most progressive in the way of like personal growth
Hmm.
and taking responsibility a lot of my mental health and things that I can improve to be the best version of myself in the future and hopefully the best athlete as well. So it's sort of just like one of those. I don't think it's ever gonna be a journey that you ever stop for anyone,
No.
because you're only trying to like better your position. But at the same time, yeah, it's definitely something that I've worked on a lot, and I've got, from what I can compare, I guess, to the average Joe person, is that I've got a lot of personal growth out of it, and I've learned a lot, which has been really
Hmm. Hmm.
positive with everything, and it complemented kind of everything in my life, which is great.
Yeah, I feel just accepting and understanding the for your own personal mental health. It's just learning to deal with adversity and sort of, well, adversity I call it, yeah, um and figuring out an extra step every time that helps you get over it when you're going through it, really just adds to your strength as a person in general in other areas as well. And through a bad phase in 2014, I realized this in a, like, long story short, getting through that uh made me like I don't think I would have been a an entrepreneur. I don't think I would have met the people I would have met if I didn't get through that, because it just hardens me as a person. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
I
case with
think
it.
that as
Yeah.
long as you are proud of the person that it's creative, you've learnt your lesson from whatever trauma or experiences that you may have faced,
Hmm.
then it's like, as long as it makes you into a better person, then you kind of can't, I guess, sit and be see it as a negative. You've As long as you want to be this version of yourself today, you can't really change anything that's happened. And I think once you've accepted that, then it's really powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. And music plays a big part. I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
music as well. Like, you know, I mean, work exercise is the number one that gets you, just to get completely eliminates the anxiety. For example, for me, and having the right playlist, having the right music, like, really, it does definitely make you go harder on training. Like, you actually can, you physically feel like the power of music is crazy in that sense. Like,
100%
you think like,
placebo almost, but it's definitely like it's more about like energy for me. I think like a lot of people always ask me why, like what I base my walkout song choice on and stuff, and it's just
hmm
always about like good vibes. As long as I can be clear headed and
hmm
I guess generating some sort of positive energy, then it's gonna put me in a perfect mind state that's gonna hopefully be present and make the best decisions in the moment. So that's sort of what I want rather than being like aggressive or angry or whatever it may
Mm.
be.
Yeah, I alternate always between the aggressive, depending on the day, aggressive, and then a lot of soul, or like
Yeah.
James Brown kind of stuff where you're dancing around more. You know, what kind of
Definitely.
like what kind of music are you listening to before fights, like pre-fight?
It always changes. It's like whatever my playlists are. I think like at the back we had like one of my playlists on. There's just like a whole lot of random stuff. It's super bipolar, but again, it's just sort of like the ongoing theme is definitely like all the vibes are pretty good. Like as long as it's got like a good beat and yeah, it gives good energy and the vibes are good, then it'll probably be on the playlist
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Like you should do a study and just like record how you perform based on which music you played before a fight,
Oh,
and then sort of make a playlist of the ones that made you win or made gave you the best performances.
yeah, success for sure.
Yeah. So I had a question about management because so I manage a couple of artists, and I really am striving towards one day managing an athlete. So I'm doing everything I can to learn. And I was wondering what you look for in a manager.
I think just like because like the fight game and all corporations are generally big business, it's something that a reason that I stay with my manager and something that I sort of look for is just like genuine authenticity. As long as I don't feel like you need to kind of see eye to eye sometimes, or they need to be like your best friend in a sense, but it's just someone that like the reason why I really like my main fight manager, Danny Rubenstein, is just that he's exactly who he is. He's the person that you meet 100% of the time. He doesn't put on a persona or anything or try to hide or buff or anything. He's black and white, and for that reason, he gets a lot of things done. And I think that's perfect personality to have for a business like this, where it sort of is big business at the end of the day. It's cutthroat and it's a very competitive industry. So you just sort of need someone that's got your best interests in mind and will sort of tell you how it is every time, so that you
Mm.
can trust that each decision getting made is a positive one.
Okay, that's very interesting because for me, like the first artist I managed is the one that had the most success, and it was the best journey, and it still is the best journey, and that's because he's the person he was in high school with me. So there's just authenticity there, and it just makes the relationship better, and you sort of like forgive each other for the mistakes as well, because you kind of understand you're both gonna make mistakes, and but you know who the person is at the core, so you know they have your best intentions in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And when you see someone change in each situation or depending on the demographic of your surroundings, then yeah, that's something that I definitely I'd rather like move away from. Um, in this industry, of course, as well. It's hard to find a lot of
It's
real
tough.
people.
You see what's going on. You're lucky you're not in the UFC though, in that sense.
Yeah.
Like that, every time I speak to managers there or anyone, like it's just a hell to deal with, you know. But do you have any ambitions though to challenge yourself there in the UFC though?
Yeah,
Sorry, I
definitely.
stole one of the fan questions, whatever.
That's all right. Something that I've always said is that I just want to accomplish everything that I can within Bellator before moving on, and get as much experience as I can from it as well before, yeah, hopefully one day moving on to the UFC brand and accomplishing even more there. So therefore, I sort of have a little bit more of a legacy kind of trailing behind me rather than
Yeah.
just jumping ship based on, I don't know, maybe financial gain or whatever it may be.
So it is
But
about
yeah, I just,
legacy for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
do Bellator, do as
Awesome.
much as I can, give as much as I can, and then take that knowledge and experience and use it into the UFC as well.
Because the 145 division there has no one in it now. It's like
Yeah.
wide open for the taking. You gotta go. No, but no, it's good. You're where you're at. You need to grow. Like there's so much self awareness that I'm impressed.
Thank you.
What is your Maori heritage mean to you?
Yeah, a lot. Obviously, I was born in New Zealand, but I moved over to Australia when I was quite young, so I didn't really get to have the best connection with my culture and everything that I would have liked. But it's something that, as an adult, I'm conscious about, and I'm trying to spend as much time, especially like in between flights and stuff, when I have a little bit more spare time, learning more about it and being proactive and connecting a little bit more. So it's something I think the next few years will build for sure, but it's always something that I'm going to be proud of, no matter what, no matter if I can speak the language or know every single sort of like detail about the culture, but it's definitely something that I'm gonna improve on soon.
Could be a big part of your brand, honestly. But so because the fighting culture is within there. Like, did any of that? I guess you said like you weren't as in touch with the culture, in the younger age. But was that any later on a driving factor in at least getting you interested in fighting? You think? I feel it is like a big part of the culture, and the Maori people are just they ride or die with their own, you know.
Yeah, I definitely think it aided in not maybe making a decision at the beginning, but definitely in staying within combat sports and why I resonated so well with it, and something while I guess I progressed in it so well as well. It's just something that genetically I think it's very applicable to Maori culture, like you're saying, and for that reason it was something that I was just like, yeah, I'm obviously quite good at this and enjoy it. So and I have that ability to, flip the switch and not take it too seriously, not have to get like too aggressive, not have to hype myself up. I just sort of am like a little bit more battle ready, genetically and primally, I guess, which is interesting. It's sort of why you see a lot more success in this Australasia demographic of us over here doing so
Mhm.
well against the rest of the world.
Nice. So you think it's just a DNA thing? It's in your blood, and you
Yeah,
feel
pretty
that.
much.
Awesome, though.
Yeah, got all that and it's
Yeah.
behind us.
So yeah, and you're into gaming as well.
Yeah,
You
a little
gaming
bit.
sometimes.
Yeah. Recently I haven't really done that much of it, but especially now I'm back in quarantine, I'll be doing more of it, and I will hopefully be doing more twitching and stuff. We're setting up. That was definitely one of the projects that I was working on,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll be something that I will pretty much have completed when I come out soon. So within the next couple of months, I have proper setups and stuff, and I'll be able to have schedules and kind of play with my fans and stuff a little bit more. So it'll be cool.
Nice. Twitch is like what is on the list.
Yeah.
Any games you're like? What are your favorites right now?
Fortnite was always my like main favorite. Um, I really like Rocket League and Uncharted, but I'm
Hmm.
not sure what I brought over with me because I thought that I would play a lot more PlayStation during the trip. But this is pretty much the first time I've like connected it to a TV, so I forgot sort of how many games I have available, but can always buy more, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone.
Can people deliver stuff to your hotel room? Like you can,
Yeah,
so you can
yeah.
make
So
orders like even if it's closed games or whatever.
yeah, yeah. You can just send it to the room, which
Cool.
is nice.
You know, get busy this week. No, I haven't
Yeah.
played Fortnite in like 1.5 years, maybe, but maybe
Oh, really?
because yeah, well, there was at some point it was just yeah, I've been through the addiction, and now it's really a war zone more than anything. But it really intensified more. Like I was never really a gamer, as
Hmm.
is the stereotype, but I think it's lockdown that really helped because you just connect. I do it very much as a social thing, very much to keep in touch with my friends all over the world, and especially when everyone was locked down, it was fantastic. And I've been gotten back in touch with people that I had lost touch with for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely was like, especially if you're in camp and you train as much as us fighters do. It's really nice to kind of go home but still connect with people and be a little bit more social without having to spend energy on leaving the house, which is good.
Yeah. So before we go to fan questions, I was gonna ask you, like, what are what some of the worst questions are that you get asked? What questions do you hate?
There's
Just
so
so I know,
many.
maybe I could learn from it.
Yeah, man. I feel like there's so many, and now that I'm getting asked, I can't even think of like one that's really The most irritating one, and I think most fighters will agree, is the most popular question, which is when's your next fight? Like pretty much a couple of days after my last fight, people were like, when are you fighting next? And I was like, obviously I don't know. I just finished that. And yeah, that's not really how the fight game works. We don't just like have a schedule as per se, but yeah, that would probably have to be the most annoying just based on the fact that it's like really repetitive. And it's something we don't have an answer for. So, and obviously if we are fighting soon, we're gonna announce it. So maybe just
And if you already have something in the works, you're not gonna announce it now.
yeah, tell one individual person, like obviously.
Yeah. Well, even I knew that, and I'm not sports media right now. But I hate that approach. But yeah, I do definitely like dislike sports media. A lot of the time we go and watch soccer matches or whatever here, and we're always like we turn up the volume at the interviews. We're like, look at these ridiculously stupid questions. It's like this guy who missed a penalty recently, and the reporter asked him, and this is just very standard over here. Like, so yeah, you've been so consistent. You scored 10. Like, how does it happen that you missed your 11th penalty or something? Like, what do you mean? How does it happen? Like, you can miss. Like, it's just an option, you know.
So ridiculous. Yeah, it's just most basic questions are usually the most annoying, I think.
Yeah. So how do you feel after that performance? You know? Yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's get into these fan questions. Got a couple of good ones.
Awesome.
So this first one, let's start easy. Describe the emotions you felt as soon as you were about to walk out on your Bellator debut. I lost your. Okay, there you go.
The emotions walking out to my Bellator debut. I remember this because it took away from my performance a little bit, because I think I was just a little bit. I felt good during the week, but then as soon as I went to walk out, I got a little bit overwhelmed by everything. It was in the SAP Center. There was I think a few thousand people there, and yeah, it was a lot overwhelming from going from like a local show in Hong Kong to that kind of massive step up in production. You think and all the lights and the cameras and stuff. I think it was like, I don't necessarily remember the feelings specifically. I just remember being overwhelmed by it, and then for that reason just kind of going into autopilot in the performance, which sucks.
It's like a blur.
Yeah,
like you probably don't really remember the walk too.
Just a whole whirlwind. Yeah, I remember kind of like finishing,
and then you can't hear your coach, or you can't hear anything.
Yeah,
you're
not really in between rounds, and that was definitely something that from then on in was just like my full focus was being present in every performance and making sure I did well.
Was that against Janay?
No, my debut was against Amber Labra.
Oh no, because you won the Oh yeah, she's good though. She's coming back. Actually, she might come on the show too. But so is that something you want to run back?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's always you want to run back your losses, but that's definitely one of them. That I just wish I was just a little bit more present and was making actual decisions rather than just sort of, I don't know, brawling around on autopilot.
Nice. And when you go through adversity in a fight, what mental switches do you make to overcome it?
I think something that I've been kind of trying to concentrate on a lot as well is like most of your mental adversity happens during the round, and so therefore you really have to like reset in between rounds. Like no matter how the round went, maybe you got taken a few times or whatever it may have been, in between when you have that 1 minute, you really just need to reset your mental frame and make sure that you take this next round as like kind of a new challenge and not take the negative energy from the last round into the next one. So that's sort of just
you sort of flipping it. Every round as a separate fight.
In a sense, yeah. Just sort of just like not letting the last round affect the next round, and the same sort of in a sense of you can use the momentum if you're winning, but at the same time, don't get overconfident moving into the next round, thinking that you just the last one, so you don't really need to worry, like in a sense. So yeah.
Because do you think like because my opponent's making adjustments probably between rounds as well, so I can just let me test the waters again or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in a 5-round fight.
it and being present, and then being like, okay, I did this wrong, but I'm not going to do that in the next round, and therefore we need to continue working our way towards like whatever solution needs to be done to get the win. Yeah.
Hmm. All right. And what are your top three favorite high activities?
Um, just like I guess like your general ones. So eating, obviously. Watch it like playing games or watching movies, like any general. Yeah, because I just really use it, especially like in the afternoons. A busy training week, I use it to taper down. So I'll do it before I have a shower and then eat and then watch a movie or whatever and then sleep. So probably
Mhm.
eating, sleeping, and playing games would be top three.
Trifecta. Yeah. So, who do you anticipate to be your toughest competition in your division? That's a guy. I like that one.
I would say probably I guess Chris Ibok would have to be the biggest challenge in a
Mm.
sense. Like she's always going to be the one you're working up towards. I think even if she lost the belt for whatever reason, you'd still a fight that you'll want, whether she has the belt around her waist or not, because of her regimen or repertoire that she's achieved. So it's sort of just like at the end of the day, you'll always be working towards that fight, I think.
I tell you, I absolutely would not want to fight, especially if she would have lost her belt. Because that, like, you don't want to fight the angry cyborg,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
you better hope she has her belt, then I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And, okay, first, your dream opponent. This is a two-part question. Your dream opponent, but then a dream matchup that you would set up between two other fighters.
Hmm. Dream opponent I always say is Gina Carano. In her prime, it would have been like a really, really great fight. Something that I would have liked to been able to, yeah, participate in. And then I guess dream matchup, that's kind of like a hard one because there's just, I guess it's like it'll be like one of those fantasy matchups, like matching up Bruce Lee with
Yeah.
like Leona Machida or like a same weight Cain Velasquez or something random like that. That would be cool. Just like two kind of like polar opposite people that are still like some of the greats that you would
Yeah.
wanna against each other.
This is not a fantasy like a Batman versus Francis Ngannou. But that
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
cool to
exactly.
see though.
Yeah. Like that. Never
Hmm.
do that.
How does yeah. You think Spider-Man, though Spider-Man would probably be a good grappler.
Yeah, for sure.
And he would cheat. um and what are your thoughts? Well, we answered this one. The thoughts on fighting in UFC. Um and do you have any advice for someone starting MMA a little bit late?
I kind of like say this a lot. A lot of people say like, do you think there's a time that is too late? And I think that a lot of the people that have been successful in MMA have sort of proven that there is no too late of a time. It's sort of more about your commitment, your mental stamina towards the fight game and how much you're gonna really put your energy in towards it. And then I guess just how much damage you've taken before starting on this journey. I don't think anyone that's had like I guess like a full football career or something should then be going into the trauma of mixed martial arts because you'll start to go downhill quite quickly. But I mean if you're sort of starting out, you haven't had to deal with too many injuries or things like that, then you should be successful kind of no matter what if as long as you put the right work in and commitment in.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think I tend to agree with you on that one. Well, that was it for fan questions. So I was wondering if, because the women's boxing is growing so much right now, well, at least they're putting more in the forefront. I think they've realized they need to compete with MMA in that sense. Um, the money keeps growing. Would you like to get into boxing as well later on?
Yeah, so I've already had
Yeah.
professional boxing fights, and it's something that I decided to put aside just because it always takes away my focus of MMA. Like as much as it sort of is a similar aspect of combat sports, etc., it still does kind of alter your game and make it a little bit more boxing specific. So it was something that I had my last boxing fight and then decided, yeah, I would like to just continuously focus solely on MMA and make sure I'm working towards that belt, because that at the moment is my biggest priority. So putting that aside, but you never know sort of what could happen in the future if I pick it back up. It's something that I do enjoy for sure, but something that I just don't want to let take away from my ultimate goal of becoming featherweight champion at the moment.
Awesome. Well, good luck with that, and I really appreciate you coming on. This has been good talk. Um, well, I was wondering, in terms of social media, if you have any tips for our podcast as well. Any little social media tricks that you've sort of come across and discovered lately?
I think probably just planning, just being like conscious of planning and being interactive. I think that's something that you said at the start, that I sort of am authentic on my social media, and that's something
Yeah,
that I kind of tell everyone, you can't fake authenticity, and most of the time it really relates well to your audience, and a lot of the time they lap it up because they feel like they're a little bit more involved with the genuine authentic you, which kind of can never be too saturated in this current world and this technology and everything and social media and everything they have to worry about. So kind of stay
absolutely.
authentic, and I think it should still give you added success no matter what.
Which guest should I have on next?
Oh, that's a good question. Someone someone exciting. I mean, even like I was listening to the Stephen Thompson JRE podcast, and that was a really, really good one.
Yeah,
I really did listen to him, but there's so many like hidden gems. I think it's just like so many people out there that are really underrated in their personality that we
those are
just
the
need.
people I'm always looking for. Those are the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm glad I found you this early on. Well, I see the following growing even since we first spoke. Like that's like what 2 weeks ago maybe. And
yeah.
yeah, it's it's impressive like for someone who's like this young in their career actually. With this that's why
Yeah,
like just I'm trying to find those people with the potential.
definitely.
Whether it's in fighting or just anything, really. So
Yeah.
hmm, no. Well, send them through if you have any recommendations. Like
Well,
I'll keep it at
yeah.
that. Yeah. All right. So thanks again for coming on. Do you have anything to promote?
No, nothing. Just if you guys want to follow me and keep a track of my journey, then follow me on all socials, Janay Harding. And yeah, I'll hopefully see everyone back in the Bellator cage soon, but won't for a little while. But keep an eye out for all my projects coming through in the next couple of months.
Perfect. And stop asking Janay when the next fight is. It'll be announced.